Yo, 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 what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and in today's video, we are going to be showing you all the goods. I reached out to every leader, to each leadership team, starting with the lead, from all the alliances in number 2 KvK for Season of Strife 2. That is comprised of, who do we have here? 3, 5, 48, 68, and then 49, 60, 62, and 70. Or VM, NOIR, KoNG, GG, NTS, Echo, FG, and BxS. So one of, I think, the most, I don't know if I want to say polarizing, but one of the biggest questions that has been surrounding this KvK is, how did diplomacy go down? What actually happened? Who said what? And so I took it upon myself to reach out to all of the alliances, and I asked them. And I said, hey, I have 5 questions or so that I want to ask you about, and I'd love to get some responses for those that were interested. Now, most of the people did respond. There was one that didn't. I did try and push it a couple days out for when I was going to end up making and recording this video, just to try and give them enough time. But unfortunately, I still didn't get anything back, even though they told me that they would reach out. So I just imagine they got busy. But I'm going to show you all of these responses now. And I want to say that some people did opt to remain anonymous, which is completely fine. And for those that are anonymous, some of the language in their responses was redacted, so that way it would be more generalized. So hopefully, there's not a way to actually pinpoint them, again, out of respect. But let's see what ends up happening. I mean, this might be juicy. I haven't read all the responses yet, so this should be interesting. Okay, let's go ahead and switch some gears. Here we go. So the 5 questions we asked, let's start with that. We asked, number 1, did all the kingdoms meet up or were included in an in-game or Discord group, chat, or server to discuss diplomacy? If any were not present, who were they? Number 2, did all the kingdoms get an opportunity to speak or share their feedback on the matchups they would like to see? If any did not speak or get a chance, who were they? Number 3, was there ever a matchup presented in which every kingdom agreed to? If so, which matchup version was it? Number 4, how do you feel about the current state of how diplomacy played out in this KvK? And then number 5, and obviously the big one, why did or do you think Echo ultimately decided to go solo and not ally with anyone? Okay, so here we go. Probably get to some rumors in a moment. I didn't realize that was all the way at the bottom. So we had the first one. Now, this was answered by 2 people from this kingdom. We'll read the first one and the second one. So the top here is, yeah, all the kingdoms were together in the same Discord, but like 8 hours after that, Echo announced that they'll have no allies. Okay. Number 2, nah, GG, NOIR, and RK with KoNG were allied within 2 hours after matchmaking. So this is interesting, right? Did all the kingdoms get an opportunity to speak, share their feedback on matchups? This person is claiming that that was not the case, that they were already allied regardless of what happened, and there really wasn't this fair opportunity for everyone to come to the table and share what they thought might be fair matchups. And then number 3, was there ever a matchup presented in which every kingdom agreed to? Their answer was hell no. So I'm going to get it kind of doubles down with number 2. Number 4, there was almost no diplomacy at all. How do you feel about the current state of diplomacy? So they're saying that in this group chat, or before matchups were ultimately decided, there really wasn't a lot of diplomacy that went on. Okay. So Echo had a pretty toxic season with BxS before, and there's been players, and there's players that are in Echo which left BxS and seem that their hate is mutual. And NTS seems to also have a bad relationship with Echo, and they asked them for the dragon to Echo, or for them the dragon to Echo. At the end, NOIR side was build fast, and Echo had the option to do a fair 3v3, which would be cool, but that means that Echo won't fight until Dragon Zone and ally with the alliance that they might hate. And again, we showed some of the numbers off for how the matchup looked, and I don't know if I would say it was fair. Again, the advantages, at least for what we looked at, which was 60 mil plus players in alliances that were at 3 billion plus or more, there was still a numbers advantage that was in favor of the NOIR side. I don't know if I would go as far as saying that it was exactly fair, or I don't know if I would label this fair. I would still label as at least a small to decent advantage on their side, again, based on those numbers. Okay, and then the other person replied with, SOD invited all the kingdoms to a Discord, and there was at least one representative from each kingdom who joined the server. Though, not sure if the FS got on. We had all messaged their officers, but hadn't heard back, and none of us had them in the Discord. So, this part is consistent with what the other rep said, which is that everyone was pretty much in there. Number 2, everyone could have had a discussion there, but chose not to. Most of the conversation was RayCloud trying to make Sato cranky. It's so funny. But this doubles down on what the other person said. There really wasn't a lot of discussion that was going on, actual diplomacy discussion. Okay. And keep in mind, this is all from one kingdom. We're going to read a few others. And let me see if I can... Oh, I can't really go up, so I'll have to like show you guys these in batches because my cam is there. Let me see if I can just lower the cam a bit, even if I have to like do that and just go super mini on this one. Number 3, nothing was presented by anyone on the Discord. There were long-standing issues between some of the alliances and long-standing friendships as well. Okay, so saying nothing, I mean, this is crazy to me if this is true. Absolutely zero matchup suggestions were presented from anyone on this KvK diplomacy Discord. Does anyone here know how to conduct diplomacy? Like, that is just my next question. Does anyone care? Do people feel the need to put in any effort? Or did it come down to maybe some people didn't want to put any effort in because of the fact that the matchup was already decided at that point? If that could have maybe been a reason. Or was there ulterior reasons that maybe we're not privy to? Okay. The map gave few options for diplomacy. I mean, again, based on positioning and the fact that kingdoms were already pre-positioned, that's understandable. We knew NOIR and GG would ally if the map made sense for it. The split actually gave the Echo side a slight power advantage without the ability to choose starting zones, which, again, we've talked about, right? It would be great if we did have the opportunity to choose starting zones. Or do things beforehand that would not... where it wouldn't be necessary to be able to choose starting zones. What do we have here? Which map terms would make sense. Existing rivalries determined what was possible. NTS, FG, and BxS did not contact everyone. Formal Diplo is non-existent by their choice. Impression from NTS has been that they think NOIR is the only competition on the map. BxS doesn't play well with most of the other people on this map. We aren't crazy enough to think we can take on NOIR. Which, again, could be anyone, really, at that point. The last one, I think Echo went solo because BxS and NTS were being prickly. If Echo was where NOIR is on the map, we would have seen different alliances. I have no direct evidence of this, just anecdotal from having done Diplo with RayCloud in the past. NTS seems to think they should have been the lead in any alliance on that side. Again, anecdotal from friends who are there. NTS might change their tune if they actually fight Echo in the next zone, which we know that they are at the moment. Bottom line, I don't think Echo had a choice. They're just putting the best spin on it that they can, and they will do their best to spank the attitude out of BxS and NTS, and if they succeed, the Dragon Zone will be much more interesting. Okay, then the next person, and again, this is just in quality fashion, I reached out to NTS as well. Most people know I ended up covering the whole NTS like cheating allegations that were going on, and as I stated then, as I'll restate now, I did 3 videos on it. The first video I did was me basically looking at what the so-called kind of evidence and material was that was provided initially, and I concluded that there just wasn't really anything that made it clear, that was just beyond a shadow of the doubt that NTS was cheating at that time when we covered it. And what the interesting part is that I got praise. People from NTS were happy that I covered it and basically didn't just flat out call them out, but I looked at everything and gave my objective view. And then the next 2 videos I did, the second video was where a number of new evidence was provided, and I covered that, but again, did not state that they were or were not cheating. I just simply covered it and then kind of left it up to everyone. And then I did a third and final video on this where I said that in conclusion, after looking at everything and really just what my final thoughts were, was that there just wasn't really any smoking gun. There wasn't anything that just absolutely pointed it that NTS was doing any of these things that some of the people were claiming they were. And still, I continued to include Ma and reach out, and this is basically the response that I got, which is a double down. I think when he was also on Most Hated Player, and I basically got the same FU reply. So I just wanted to, again, for the record, I have nothing against NTS, still don't have anything against Ma, but again, just for transparency, this is the reply that I got. Okay, next one is Chitty from KoNG and 48. Was totally fine with his name being mentioned here. And so I'm going to read his out. He said, number 1, at some point later in day 1, post-MM, did this happen? Post-matchmaking, this did happen. As far as I recall, everyone made it in there eventually, possibly. Not NTSFG, but I can't remember honestly. So this is the second person who has mentioned from a different kingdom that FG may not have been in there potentially right away. Number 2, by the time everyone was there, servers had already started to talk and sort of knew who they liked, disliked. So this kind of doubles down with this notion from the previous response that we got that there could have already been some matchups that happened before everyone got in, if not shortly after everyone got in, and maybe not everyone was able to really collect themselves and to have this opportunity to potentially speak and share their thoughts equally. Number 3, don't believe so. Some talks of a free-for-all were mentioned, but really the Discord was too late as partners had already started to be made. So that, once again, is key. This is the second person now from a second kingdom that has said exactly what one or two of the people said in the previous comment, which is that matchups and partners were already agreed upon, which means that, again, based on how that looks, that means that there really wasn't a fair opportunity for everyone to speak, to share feedback before alliances were. Now, could that potentially factor into that there maybe is just not enough time during the matchmaking portion? However, you also have to consider that you have time based on the Zone 1, right? It's not like you're fighting it all out in the Zone 1, and if you end up getting matched with another kingdom in there, the likelihood is that you're probably not, it's probably more in your interest to not Civil War it out in the starting Zone 1 and just say, look, we'll just work together at that point. But to make any kind of insinuation that there isn't enough time to do diplomacy when you had all the period from after Brink of War, and then you had the matchups, and you had the entire time throughout Zone 1 before Zone 2 opened, there was time to get that done. So I just hope that no one uses that as a potential excuse. Then we get to number 4. I don't know if there was a lot to it, honestly. This is as was the matchup presented in which every kingdom agreed to. From my perspective, by the time I figured out who was where, 20 minutes after reset, our zone partner, RK, NOIR, and GG had already had some kind of chat and all expressed they wanted to work together. So then, as we were reaching out to RK and NOIR, we meet in Zone 3. They both asked us to join another Discord. That was the 3 of us and GG. Having large groups of my former members in Echo, BxS, and GG, it seemed like this was kind of destined to be prior dramas and such. So this is, and again, who knows if this happened or not. I would almost bet, because from someone who's been in a number of kingdoms across different games in this genre, it is, and it can be, very likely that kingdoms are already having one-on-one individual private conversations prior to coming into a KvK diplomacy conversation. Now, that doesn't always necessarily mean that it is going to pan out that way, depending on what those conversations look like. But there are times where you can have those private conversations and already kind of load your deck before coming into a situation like this, which in my view, I just view as kind of dishonest. I view it as disingenuous. I don't think that that is the best way to go about it, especially if you're looking and you really care about all the players, not only in your kingdom, but all the players in the KvK, where you are trying to generate the best playing experience for them within that KvK. And so now we get to the next one here, which is number 5. Echo was mad that NOIR partnered with people, I think mostly because they didn't want to work with BxS, and because when they spoke with NTS, they said they would only partner with Echo if NTS got to capture the dragon. So Echo decided to go solo because they didn't like the options left to them. Okay. Yeah, Echo wasn't excited about having partners in their Zone 2 and 3. Having fake fights or dealing with them, to me, seems like they want to make a statement, and they would rather be able to blame it, OK being 1v7, on why this season was bad if it goes bad. Interesting. Okay. The next one we got. So here's another one we got where it's from another king. Again, this person opted to remain anonymous. Yes, I see everyone that did meet up in the Discord. Number 2, the first thing everyone saw was Echo's announcement that he would be playing that they would be playing solo, and I think everyone respected their decisions, so that chat was no longer necessary. Was there ever a matchup presented which every kingdom agreed to? No. How do you feel about the current state? No comments. We just have fun with it. And then the last one was in regarding Echo's decision to go solo. They just hate merit farming and want to play this game on every zone, but who knows, when the last zone opens, they might want to find allies. Yeah, so we'll see. So this person's saying that by the time they joined, or the first thing everyone saw was Echo's announcement. However, that doesn't corroborate with what some of the other people are saying. Now, some other people did say that Echo made an announcement, but I think the timeline portion makes it seem as though Echo's announcement was made after people had joined, and there was still some conversations in whatever level of capacity that was, but seems very minimal, if non-existent, that happened prior to Echo's announcement. Okay, let's get to the next one. So this one's a little bit longer. This person, again, wanted to remain anonymous. I do want to point out these two before I read the last one, which is actually going to be from Echo, that I did reach out to NOIR, and I reached out to Satoru, and I reached out to Fluffy. Fluffy was kind enough, and again, nothing against Satoru. He might have just been busy or just doesn't want to reply. That's fine. But again, I want to be clear and transparent there. I had reached out to Fluffy. Fluffy was kind enough to then reach out to NOIR leadership, and I sent him the same questions, or I should say I sent them the same questions that I sent to everyone else, and... Gosh, my kids. And they basically replied back and just said they just don't want to comment. Totally fine with that. I appreciate the fact that they at least took it there, asked the questions, and then got back to me. I reached out to RayCloud. RayCloud was the one I mentioned before that, again, I had reached out to him a number of days ago trying to get a response. He said he was willing to give me a response, and I just imagine he got busy, right? Got caught up. If he gives me a response afterwards and it's something that, I can include, maybe in a later video, if it lends or provides a different perspective, I'd be happy to do so. From this person, before we get to Echoes, number one, when NOIR and GG saw the matchup, they were instantly allied. Okay, so this person's claiming it was immediate, and they said, F everyone else. After that, NOIR proposed to discuss with RK. NOIR has been expecting a matchup against EIS and Echo together, so they were pretty much ready to have GG allied if it happened. So basically saying like, hey, this is already ready to go. It's going to be instant if we end up seeing this happen. We got an invitation after reset to join a common Diplo Discord, which I think was set up by Echo or BxS. I'm not sure myself. It took a couple of hours to get everyone in that Diplo Discord. NTS rep was the last, from what I recall. It was about 1 to 2 hours later, but everyone was accounted for from what I can remember. So this makes it seem, from what other people have said, that it took a number of hours to get everyone in there. And then at some point, right, there was that Echo announcement. Number two, nope. What literally happened in that Discord was RayCloud making nap jokes and trying to be snarky with NOIR. So second person. I mean, RayCloud's trolling Satoru and NOIR at this point. Provoking Satoru, who asked many times what was the point of this Discord since nobody outside of RayCloud was talking. Interesting. So this is a little bit of a new piece of information, because this person is claiming that nobody talked outside of RayCloud and Satoru, or RayCloud and some NOIR members that may have been in. After about 15 hours later, I cannot recall the time frame, but it was over 12 hours at least, SOD welcomed everyone in the Discord and declared Echo going solo. So, again, here's a timestamp. One of the people said that shortly after everyone joined, the first thing everyone saw was Echo saying going solo. But this doesn't appear to be the case if this is accurate, and at least half a day passed before that happened. So does that mean that Echo and SOD and their group saw that there just really wasn't anything going on? Did Echo and SOD actually propose something? Did they not propose something and then they just made it? Those to me are interesting things, because to me, if absolutely no one proposed a matchup, then I just have to say without a shadow of a doubt, dude, shame on all of you for not coming to the table honestly, earnestly, and with good intentions to actually propose real, actual matchups. That's the whole bloody effing point, excuse my French, of a KvK diplomacy server, is everyone's there, you propose matchups, if you don't like something, you adjust it, you counter-propose, you talk it out, you show the data, and you present the numbers. That is basically a primary part. I'll just say that a primary part of what you should be doing in such a Discord or such a group. Sorry, it's just frustrating, man, when you see this, and it's like, if that's true, that is so disappointing that it almost sets the bar so much lower for me and potentially others on such a lack of realistic expectations that we almost shouldn't have had for this KvK group. ATL asked if that means everyone was going to play free-for-all, with RayCloud chiming in again with a relevant comment. So this person mentioned, okay, ATL had mentioned something from BxS. So Toro simply responded, I will kill anyone that isn't my ally. Okay, pretty on spot, pretty on point, I think, for NOIR. Personally, after leaving that Discord, it felt like a waste of time. So this is the second, third person who basically said this is a waste of time. Man, this is just so disappointing. Like, it's really sad. Of time more than anything. It's almost like dude, like, what is everyone, like an elementary, like middle school kid that we just can't have like grown adult conversations, and we don't, because listen, let me tell you something. When I hear stuff like this, if this is true, once again, what this says to me is that if I was a member of alliances, if I was a member of the alliances that are in this group, I have nothing to do, I'm just a grunt, I would feel so disrespected by the actions and lack of effort that was put in by my leadership teams and the alliance as a part of this KvK group, that no one cared enough to want to make my playing experience and my friends' playing experience and our playing experience the best it could possibly be. Just sucks. Afterwards, I've heard what other alliances tried to do deals with Echo, but again, those are things that I've heard but not seen, so I'd rather not spread info if I cannot guarantee myself. Okay, number 3, no. But the matchup, GG NOIR, KoNG versus BxS, Echo, NTS, FG is very close on paper. Our data guy analyzed it, and I know my co-RFR proposed to show you the data, but it's pretty fair KvK overall numbers-wise if you look in theory. And again, we commented on it. We didn't say that it was overwhelmingly bad or overwhelmingly good. It was fair-ish, right? Number 4, personally, fine with it. Is how you feel. GG gets to mock war with NOIR in order to prep for Zone 3. We did see that. Zone 3 statue fight against BxS. Both GG and BxS are close in power, so it will be an interesting fight. It has been so far. It's a pretty packed season for us, which I'm happy with. Many people are eager to fight old friends and rivals. Number 5. Hard to say. Maybe some mind games to push NOIR to also unally and go solo as well, out of shame, or Echo having issues with BxS and NTS. However, it's important to know that Diplo could also change in the middle of this KvK. That's true. So we will see how things unfold during the season. From what I heard, GG wasn't closed to make even matchup. We did discuss in the past with some alliances that if a matchup would be uninteresting, we would welcome a fight, forging members through hardships and see who's able to take pressure. But I couldn't see GG allying BxS and NTS due to several members having beefs towards those two alliances. Interesting. So this person's saying that those 3 alliances in particular, they just couldn't see them allying. Okay. Leadership and our members. We just want to make sure everyone has fun and can participate to an event without fear of being annihilated. I think that's a good point. Also, regarding what I heard, one of the confirmed things that I haven't seen but can confirm from a source is SoD approached NOIR and DM and asked them to basically nap until Zone 4, have their 1v1 there, and then fighting everyone else. Interesting. Interestanto, that's what this person is claiming. I haven't heard anything mentioned in that regard. Would be curious if anyone comments and mentions that they may have heard something. Okay, obviously that's not what ended up happening, at least so far for what we're seeing. Let's go and get to probably the big Shibuya here. So I did reach out to Echo. Grand responded. SoD was willing to respond to as well, but he knew that Grand had already responded, I believe, from what I can recall. And so here's their response. Number 1, there was a Discord server created by Echo for everyone to join and discuss diplomacy as a group. To the best of my knowledge, everyone was invited and most joined. NTS was doing Diplo via direct talks to specific players known to them. However, this is relevant as you will see later. Everyone in the Diplo server was free to say anything they liked. Again, irrelevant as you will see. No, the matchups were let me see here. Let me go over here. I just want to see if, I can't remember if Grand sent me anything. Hang on. I got to see if he sent me any screenshots. Okay, no. Good. I was just double checking. No, the matchups. So, server, number 3. No, the matchups were predetermined this season. Interesting. So, again, this is the same person saying that, okay, matchups were kind of already set. It feels as though before they made their announcement. Number 4. Echo is excited to test ourselves in an even harder fight this season than when we faced BDO. We do wish there was going to be more fights and more zones, but each alliance is only ever one half of the equation making PvP happen. That's true. It's a good point. Number 5. When NOIR and GG as global allies were in the same KvK, we understood that in almost all probability the diplomacy was over before it even started. Leaks about the diplomacy were made on Guns' stream and assumed... No, don't open it yet. Thank you. Guns' stream to be official by the public and interested parties alike. These were not diplomat determined and agreed. Based on that, plus the positioning of the kingdoms, it was instantly a completely sleeper season if we went with the predetermined allies. No PvP until final zone, merit trades, or mock wars in our eyes do not count as PvP. Now, to be fair, BxS still would have fought against GG. That much is clear. I think what they mean is no PvP for them and no PvP for NTS. Pretty much, right? Until the final zone. We will do what's needed to buy out the merit shops to keep players as active as possible, but feel that real fights are what keep players active in the game and make a season great. While we understand that many players are angry over a decision or do not agree that it is what is best for the KvK, we simply feel that on this instance, it is the decision that is most aligned with the values and principles that drive Echo, and a statement about why people play this game. Furthermore, We hope that other kingdoms will see it as a wake-up call that it's okay to explore more diplomacy options in order to make the game more fun and engaging. More players and leadership need to be willing to risk end-of-season rewards in exchange for high tempo, high activity, high excitement seasons. Shoutouts to EDS for playing your hearts out in your season, and POTC for tossing up the middle finger and refusing trash matchups. Alliances like these give Echo hope for the KvKs to come. Okay, that pretty much wraps it up. I mean, my final thoughts and conclusion on this is that I think it's pretty clear, based on responses from at least half of the people, at least half of the kingdoms, is that we sadly were deprived on, one, what could have been potentially different matchups, maybe more fair matchups. Number two, not everyone coming to the table and actually presenting their matchups. Number three, nobody really presenting any data from the group to provide to the group that would show that, hey, this could be a matchup, or this could be another matchup, or this is a counter matchup suggestion to the one presented initially. And then number four, some people obviously having diplomacy discussions behind closed doors. And keep in mind, people can do whatever they want. But at the end of the day, right, it's only as fair as well for people like myself and others to criticize that, and hopefully doing it in a constructive way. And so for me, I think those 4 points or so really turned me off to this idea that this KvK and the people that came into this KvK and that are in it really came to the table in a way that was respectful for all the players that they are in charge of and that they are in care of. And that, to me, is the most absolutely disappointing thing, and probably the most disgusting thing, if I have to be honest. The fact is that the players pretty much got screwed over. Now, if you're a player and you're fighting right now in one of the 2 Zone 3 matchups, and what happened for one of the 3 Zone 2 matchups, I'm sure you're okay. I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, oh, well, I got some PvP, and cool, dope sauce. But is that really going to be the most enjoyable that it could have been throughout the entire season? And keep in mind, we're not talking about the fact that there absolutely needs to be PvP in every single Zone 2, or that there needs to be absolute PvP in every Zone 3. I, for one, am okay if there is absolutely no PvP until the final zone, if you end up getting PvP from once the final zone opens throughout the end of the season. And I'm not saying it necessarily has to be every single day, but let's say that, for example, the last third of the season is where final zone opens all the way until it goes back to Zone 1. If you're fighting for most of that, I would still take that as a win, because you're still talking about 10 to 15 days of PvP, give or take. That's a lot better than seeing 3 to 4 to 5 days of PvP, or 2 to 4 days of PvP throughout an entire season where it's high activity. Obviously, there are some things that we can really dive into more specifics, but it just kind of goes to show you, like, yeah, if you can get PvP in every single zone for a couple days on each zone, that's great. But if you have to potentially play the long game out in order to then get a healthy and sustainable amount of PvP on the back end or the last third of the KvK season, that is fine as well. You have to be thinking about longevity and the hopeful, positive, and engaging impact that the players are going to be able to enjoy throughout the entire season. Because remember, it is not about you. It's not about you, the leads. It's not about the people who are diplomats and your butthurt relationships or your sour taste relationships, or, oh, he said this against me and I just think I want to deal with him anymore. No. Put some big boy pants on. Actually come to the table like a grown-up and do what is in the best interest of your players and the people who are in your kingdom. Don't let your emotions, your previous history, again, albeit, have to be fair, if you were actually truly betrayed, or someone flat out lied to you and it costed you a KvK, like if it is something that egregious, okay, you can sell me on it. But if it's not, then just grow the F up. Because this is disappointing. And it's sad. Will we still see some PvP throughout the season? Absolutely. We're not saying we're not seeing any. But this sucks. And again, is it maybe just kind of like this I don't want to say perfect storm, but is it like this storm kind of a situation where it's just because of the people who were included in here, or some of the people who were included in here, and it almost kind of caused this ripple effect where because someone didn't do something, this other person didn't do something, we chose to not do anything because we didn't see anyone else doing anything? It's just like, man, it just, I don't know, man, it blows my mind when I see stuff like this happening. And again, I'll just end it with, I feel sorry for the players. Like, I just feel like this is just completely disingenuous from everyone involved, if this is true from what we've heard from multiple sources so far, that there just really wasn't a lot of participation from, I should say, actual participation that factored into relevant language, relevant conversation, relevant discussion that pertained to diplomacy in the matchup. Anyways, with that in mind, that's it for me. I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments down below, and if you have anything else you want to share, we'll be happy to read. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.